In my mind, there's no chance that Donkey Kong Bonanza can be a bad game. I love this overly charismatic depiction of DK. The world is colorful, it's so vibrant, and his moveset is vast and fun to fool around with. But is this the 3D Donkey Kong game that I and a lot of you have been waiting over 25 years for? I don't know, but I've at least been able to figure out a few things that I really want to see this new Donkey Kong game tackle. And if you can, please stick around to the end of the video, as I'm going to be saving one of my favorite details for last. Now, the first thing I want to see Donkey Kong Bonanza tackle is rideable animals. The original Donkey Kong Country series featured loads and loads of cool animals that you could buddy up with, and at times you could actually play as them fully in their own separate little mini-games. But then when Donkey Kong Country returned and Tropical Freeze hit the scene, they instead relegated Squawks to be more of an item, and Rambi was the only one who actually made a faithful leap from the past series. I want to see the spider from Donkey Kong Country 2, and the elephant from Donkey Kong Country 3, and On Guard the swordfish. A Donkey Kong game without these characters just doesn't feel right. And the Country games in specific were made so much more special because of their inclusion. And while I love playing as DK, I'd really like to see his animal buddies make a return too. We do see a few ostrich statues at the beginning of the first trailer, and then later in the trailer we actually see some ostrich characters that DK seems to like high five or something, so maybe one of them will be playable. Maybe they'll just be relegated to NPCs that hang around and help you on your quest, but it'd be sweet if you could play as an ostrich. And I can't think of another game where I would want to play as an ostrich. Now, the underwater sections in the Country series are some of the best and most memorable levels for me. And it's probably easy for you all to remember that the Kongs, when swimming underwater, don't seem to have to worry about their breath. Either they can just hold it for a really long time, or they can breathe underwater. But then in Bonanza, we have these sections of the game that apparently take place below the seafloor, and above you is just water, and then the sun is supposed to be peering through, and then you have all these Kongs and other characters just living, coexisting underwater. How is this possible, and why can I not suspend this disbelief? It's such a bizarre thing to me. Gravity is all the same under there. It's not underwater. Technically, it's underwater. You're underneath the... I don't like it. It's weird. Why do I have an issue with it? I don't know. Let's move on. Bonanza so far seems to be quite a beautiful game. It does a really solid job of showing off what the Switch 2 can do. In many ways, this is kind of like how Mario Odyssey worked on the original Switch. But during my time with Bonanza at the Switch 2 Experience Media event, and even in some other footage that I've observed online from others, the game's graphics seem to get tripped up on themselves every now and again. Sometimes you'll see the floor disappear, or even Donkey Kong's animations aren't the most smooth. And it just doesn't really feel like something that you would see from one of Nintendo's flagship franchises. Now, Pokemon aside, we're not going to talk about that right now. I'm just a little worried that maybe this game isn't ready to hit store shelves in July. Now, I'm happy to be wrong. Very happy. I want to love this game, but I just hope that some graphical hiccups aren't something that we just have to deal with when it comes to Donkey Kong. Now, Donkey Kong may have gotten his start as a big fella who stole a woman and then tried to smush people with barrels. Eventually, he really came around. He made some friends and became quite a lovable guy who just is obsessed with bananas. But it's those friends in particular, like Diddy Kong, Dixie, and Funky Kong, that I personally really grew to love. Donkey Kong Country 2 is my favorite game of the series, and Donkey Kong isn't even playable in there. You can only play as Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong, who are both a lot faster. Dixie even has different traversal elements. So to see Diddy Kong at the very least be replaced by this Odd Rock character is quite the odd decision to me. Sure, Mario games quite often, at least 3D ones, don't have Luigi following him around while he's running around the Mushroom Kingdom or flying through outer space. They end up giving Mario new characters like Flood in Mario Sunshine or Cappy in Mario Odyssey. And Luigi usually comes back and makes an appearance as either a playable character or an NPC, so I have high hopes that at least Diddy Kong, at the very least, is not going to get forgotten in this game. We've seen Cranky Kong is in the game thanks to, I believe, some Nintendo Treehouse footage, but it seems so far he's just a standard NPC that you can chat with. And I really hope Diddy and Dixie and maybe Funky Kong all come back as playable characters, something that maybe the second player can pick up. Maybe the only thing that's different is just the movement, the speed, and the traversal elements. Gameplay doesn't have to be completely different with them. Now, of course, they're not as strong, and that was always the biggest thing with Donkey Kong Country was DK was able to defeat certain enemies that Diddy couldn't. Even Kiddy Kong and Dixie Kong had that in Donkey Kong Country 3. I just want them playable. I want them playable in some form. Nintendo has no problem churning out some pretty good tunes for their video games, but it'd be really swell to see them bring back David Wise to compose a few tracks for this new Donkey Kong game. Now, I know it's not a country title, but his music was so important and so influential for many people that grew up playing Donkey Kong Country. I bet there's at least one song that you can think of and hum in your head or even out loud right now. And Nintendo has been good. They've brought David Wise back on to produce music for Tropical Freeze at the very least. I don't think he was in Donkey Kong Country Returns. So it'd be nice, bring him back just for a couple tracks. Let him create the track for a moment when you're up high in a mountain, all by yourself, swinging around on vines. Wait a minute, they haven't confirmed vines yet for this game, and that's my other issue. The big initial reveal trailer for Bananza opens up to a wide shot of an area soaked in green. It might be a jungle, it might be a swamp, it might be both. But it's very distinctly lacking tall trees and vines. Don't tell me this new Donkey Kong game isn't going to have Tarzan-like vines that you can swing around on. That feels like blasphemy. So far, I think that's my biggest gripe with this game, is that it is such a drastic departure from the games of old in the series. Now, that's not necessarily a bad game. Take, for example, Breath of the Wild, which is the first truly open world Zelda game. Link wore a blue tunic, weapons could break, and dungeons have never been the same. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad game, it's just so different than what Zelda fans grew up with. And it ended up being quite a pretty good Zelda. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are pretty great games, aren't they? But I don't know, take Mario Odyssey for example. If you were to rip him out of the game and throw Bubsy in the seat and let him wear Cappy, would you really notice all of the Mario elements surrounding him? Sure, there are some Toads running around and Princess Peach, but like you could easily swap those other characters in and this could be any kind of platformer. So will I be mad if there aren't vines in Donkey Kong Bonanza? Yes, I will. Please let us swing around from them. We know that barrels and minecarts are confirmed, so vines, I guess, are really the only other thing that we're missing. Kong letters, that'd be nice to kind of see those scattered around as well. And I know the game doesn't have to use all of the original blueprints from Country, but I'd like to see more of that stitched into this game as well. Now, my last detail, one of my favorite things, are the Kremlings. Remember those anthropomorphic crocodiles from Donkey Kong Country and even DK64? Thinking back, they did a pretty good job frightening me as a kid, but I think that was probably also just a combination of the music and even the lighting in certain levels. Remember that stop and go level? Ugh. Gosh. Now, I like the Tiki Tak tribe and the Snowmads from the more recent Donkey Kong Country games, but they just don't have that same edge as the Kremlings. They were simultaneously cool and stupid. They just made for some really fun villains. Now, it's just a feeling, but I have a good feeling that they're going to return in this game at some point, maybe at a halfway point. Now, you may have noticed in all the footage that's out there that there are certain enemies that kind of roam around like they're in these like stone sarcophagus things. And if DK punches them hard enough or throws a big rock at them, that kind of outer shell will break. And underneath, you might notice that there's a golden crocodile-esque skeleton just roaming around, holding a big weapon. Is very strange and has not been explained yet to my knowledge. Now, it would bewilder me as to why the Kremlings would have gone extinct or why they're all skeletons and they lost their flesh and how they're able to just roam around like this in the first place. But there's no way that Nintendo is going to try and write this off as some other enemies than Kremlings, right? I don't know. I'm not. Nintendo does whatever they want. But this also gives me hope that maybe we'll see King K. Rool come back at the end as some big bad skeleton monster. Pirates and skeletons, they just traditionally kind of go together. So maybe we'll see a big pirate ship swoop in halfway through the game and take control, and then there will be your new main antagonist. Maybe the other Kongs that you're fighting against throughout the game will join your team, or maybe they'll just go by the wayside. I traditionally don't like it when video games throw a random enemy in like that and they end up becoming the main villain. Final Fantasy is infamous for doing this, but if it's the Kremlings, I'm totally on board with it. So thank you for coming to my Donkey Kong Bonanza therapy session, for sitting down, taking a breath, and thinking about all of the things that would make Donkey Kong Bonanza a bit more like maybe what I've had in my dreams and maybe what you've been dreaming about as well. So let us know in the comments down below if you too think there is anything missing from Donkey Kong Bonanza so far, if I touched on any specific points that you really relate to, or if there's just something else, or maybe if you have no qualms with it at all and if it's going to be your day one purchase, the reason you're getting a Switch 2. Let us know. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you barrel right into that subscribe button and then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos like this. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.